Hello, it's your favorite reading buddy here, and I'm back with law number 5, the law of consistency. The law of consistency. I smile because we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're on 5. Maybe the law of consistency is at work. Law number 1 is the law of intentionality. Law number 2 is the law of awareness. Number 3 is the law of the mirror. Number 4 is the law of reflection. And now we're in number 5. We are talking about the 15 invaluable laws of growth. We are reading the book by John C. Maxwell. So we are going to law number 15. So we are on law number 5 now, and it's a law of consistency. Have you watched 1? Have you watched 2, 3, 4? I encourage you to read them. They are on this channel. Now let's go into law number 5, the law of consistency. Motivation gets you going. Discipline keeps you growing. The hall of excellence, the test of greatness, is consistency. Quote by Jim Tressel. When I started my speaking career, I believed that motivating people was the key to helping them succeed. If I can get them moving in the right direction, I thought, they will be successful. I will do my best to give people reasons to work hard. I'll try to make them laugh. I'll try to touch their hearts. My goal was to inspire people so much that they'd be ready to charge hell with a water pistol. When I was done, I'll walk away thinking I'd done a good job. But often, whatever motivation people received didn't seem to last very long. I'm still a big believer in motivation. Everyone wants to be encouraged. Everyone enjoys being inspired. But here's the truth when it comes to personal growth. Motivation gets you going, but discipline keeps you growing. That's the law of consistency. It doesn't matter how talented you are. It doesn't matter how many opportunities you receive. If you want to grow, consistency is key. How to grow in consistency? If you want to become more disciplined and consistent in your performance, you need to become more disciplined and consistent in your growth. How can you do that? By knowing the what, how, why, and when of personal improvement. Take some time to consider the following 4 questions about your growth. Number 1, do you know what you need to improve? Journalist and author George Lorimer remarked, "You've got to get up every morning with determination if you are going to go to bed with satisfaction." End of quote. That's true, but it's important to know where to direct that determination. I've already discussed this in some detail, but I think it bears repeating. You must develop yourself to be successful. All the time, I see people with purpose who are inconsistent in their progress. They have the ambition to succeed and they show aptitude for their job, yet they do not move forward. Why? Because they think they can master their job and don't need to master themselves. What a mistake. Your future is dependent upon your personal growth. Improving yourself daily guarantees you a future filled with possibilities. When you expand yourself, you expand your horizons, your options, your opportunities, your potential. From the start of my career in 1969, if I had spent all my time perfecting my ability to do my job, I never would have grown. But because I focused on improving myself, I grew from taking care of people to leading them. I went from speaking to audiences to writing books. I expanded from influencing only small religious organizations to many different kinds of organizations. I improved my focus from institutional to entrepreneurial. My influence changed from local to national to international. I went from maintaining organizations to founding them and growing them. Why has this happened to me? Because what I did was try to improve myself, not just my job or position. It opened up my future. It has allowed me to achieve much more than I ever believed I would be capable of doing. E.M. Gray said, "The successful person has the habit of doing the things that failures don't like to do. The successful person doesn't like doing them either, but his dislike is subordinated to the strength of his purpose." End of quote. The more tuned in you are to your purpose and the more dedicated you are to growing towards it, the better your chances of reaching your potential, expanding your possibilities, and doing something significant. Number 2, do you know how you are supposed to improve? The question of how to improve is one of the main reasons I started to work hard at changing from being a motivational speaker to becoming a motivational teacher. I didn't want people to walk away from one of my teaching sessions inspired but uncertain how to proceed. To grow, most people need knowledge, experience, and coaching. Do you have a handle on how to improve yourself? I have 4 very simple suggestions that can get you started. 1. Match your motivation to your personality type. Not everyone gets motivated the same way or is motivated by the same things. To give yourself a fighting chance to become consistent in your growth, start by leveraging your personality type to get yourself going. There are dozens of personality profiles and systems that people use. I like the one based on the classic personality types that was taught by Florence Litauer. The first type of person is phlegmatic. The strength of people with this personality is that they are easygoing and likable. Their weakness is inertia. If you are phlegmatic, how can you motivate yourself? By finding the value in what you need to do. When phlegmatics see the value in doing something, they can be one of the most tenacious, meaning stubborn, of all personality types. At the opposite end of the personality spectrum from phlegmatics are cholerics. The strength of people with this personality type is that they take charge easily and make decisions quickly. Their weakness is that if they are not in charge, they refuse to participate. If you are choleric, how can you tap into internal motivation? By focusing on the choices you can make. Every person is in charge of his own growth. Choose how you will grow and stick with it. The most fun-loving of all the personality types are the people who are sanguine. They are often the life of every party. Their weakness is often lack of focus. If you are sanguine, how can you motivate yourself to grow? By making a game of it. If that seems impossible, then give yourself rewards for incremental success. The final personality type is melancholic. These are life's perfectionists. Attention to detail is their strength. But because they desire to do everything perfectly, they are afraid of making mistakes. If you are melancholic, how do you motivate yourself beyond that fear? By focusing on the joy of learning details and the potential for developing a level of mastery over your subject matter. As you can see, every personality type has its strength. You just need to tap that strength in your personality to set yourself up for success when it comes to motivation. Start with the simple stuff. What is the number 1 mistake of first-time gardeners? The same as that of many people who approach personal growth for the first time, attempting too much. What is the result? Discouragement. When you attempt too much too soon, you are almost guaranteed to fall short of your desired results. That is demotivating. The secret to building motivational momentum is to start small with the simple stuff. A humorous take on this thought was captured in the comic strip Peanuts by Charles Schulz. After striking out on the baseball field, as usual, Charlie Brown returns to the dugout and slumps down on the bench. "Rats," he laments, "I'll never be a big league player. I just don't have it. All my life I've dreamed of playing in the big leagues, but I know I'll never make it." Lucy, ever want to give advice, replies, "Charlie Brown, You are thinking too far ahead. What you need to do is set more immediate goals for yourself. Immediate goals, Charlie asks. Like many people, he has never considered such a thing. Yes, Lucy advises, start with the next inning. When you go out to pitch, see if you can walk out of the mound without falling down. Industrialist Ian McGregor observed, I worked on the same principle as people who train horses. You start with low fences, easily achieved goals, and work up. It's important in management never to ask people to try to accomplish goals they can't accept. End of quote. If you want to gain momentum and improve your motivation, begin by setting goals that are worthwhile but highly achievable. Master the basics, then practice them every day without fail. Small disciplines repeated with consistency every day lead to great achievements gained slowly over time. This is an especially good idea to implement when reading a book. In fact, when I wrote 25 Ways to Win with People, I suggested that readers working on their people skills practice one of the 25 skills each week. It creates an easy way to make progress doing something simple day by day. If you want to grow, don't try to win big, try to win small. Andrew Wood asserted, where many people go wrong in trying to reach their goals is in constantly looking for the big hit, the home run, the magic answer that suddenly transforms their dreams into reality. The problem is that the big hit never comes without a great deal of little hits first. Success in most things comes not from some gigantic stroke of faith, but from simple incremental progress. End of quote. Be patient. When I give the advice to be patient, I am the person who most needs to take it. As I mentioned in the last chapter, impatience is one of my greatest weaknesses. I think it comes from having unrealistic expectations for myself and others. Everything I want to do takes longer than I anticipate. Every endeavor I lead is more difficult than I believed it will be. Every project I attempt costs more than I expected. Every task I hand off to another person is more complicated than I hoped. Some days I believe that patience is a minor form of despair disguised as a virtue. I'm not alone in this. If you're an American, as I am, you may agree that as a culture we have a problem with patience. We want everything fast. We live in a country with fast food restaurants and fast weight loss clinics. How ironic. Persian poet Sadi instructed, have patience. All things are difficult before they become easy. End of quote. That's wise advice. Most people never realize how close they are to achieving significant things because they give up too soon. Everything worthwhile in life takes dedication and time. The people who grow and achieve the most are the ones who harness the power of patience and persistence. Value the process. One of the best things you can do for yourself as a learner is to cultivate the ability to value and enjoy the process of growth. It is going to take a long time, so you might as well enjoy the journey. Several years ago, I was having dinner with my friends, Vern and Charlene Armitage. Charlene is a successful life coach who works with many clients. I asked what she focused on when coaching. Her answer highlighted the importance of the process that people must develop in order to grow and change the direction of their lives. She said, life goals are reached by setting annual goals. Annual goals are reached by reaching daily goals. Daily goals are reached by doing things which may be uncomfortable at first, but eventually become habits. Habits are powerful things. Habits turn actions into attitudes, and attitudes into lifestyles. End of quote. You can visualize tomorrow using it as motivation to grow. But if you want to actually grow, your focus needs to be on today. If you value today and find a way to enjoy it, you will invest in today. And the small steps you take today will lead to bigger steps you take someday. In their book, Winning the Answers, Jack and Susie Welch assert, too many people believe that one big public success will solve their self-confidence problems forever. That only happens in the movies. In real life, the opposite strategy is what works. Call it the small victories approach. End of quote. They go on to describe Jack's first experience as a speaker. Even with detailed notes and lots of practice, the 15-minute effort was a disaster. So he made it his goal to improve incrementally, which he accomplished by valuing the process. Instead of letting fear of failures overwhelm him, he stared defeat in the face, figured out what went wrong, set a new goal, and started again. They explain, in time, you will discover that all failing really does teach you something you needed to know, so you can regroup and stretch again with ever more nerve. End of quote. That strategy has paid off. Today, they write, answering questions without notes in front of thousands of people is the opposite of nerve-wracking. It is fun. End of quote. That kind of progress cannot happen if you don't value the process. Number 3, do you know why you want to keep improving? Knowing what to improve and how to improve are critical to consistency in personal growth, but so is knowing why. The how and what will take you only so far. The why is what keeps you motivated long after that first rush of energy and enthusiasm wears off. It can carry you through when willpower isn't enough. Think of it as why power. I love the story of the salesman who looked out the window of the hotel restaurant at a blinding snowstorm. He asked his waiter, "Do you think the roads will be clear enough in the morning to travel?" The waiter replied, "Depends on if you're on salary or commission." Having a strong why will help you to keep going when the discipline of learning becomes difficult, discouraging, or tedious. If your growth is connected to your values, dreams, and purpose, you will know why you are doing it, and you will be more likely to follow through. One of the ways to judge whether you have tapped into your whys is to take what my friend Mike Murdoch calls the why test. Your answers to the following 7 questions will let you know if your why is solid enough to motivate you to consistently grow. Question 1. Do you constantly procrastinate on important tasks? Question 2. Do you require coaxing to do small chores? Question 3. Do you perform duties just to get by? Question 4. Do you constantly talk negatively about your work? Question 5. Do efforts of friends to encourage you irritate you instead? Question 6. Do you start small projects and abandon them? Question 7. Do you avoid self-improvement opportunities? If you answer yes to many of these questions, you haven't tapped into a strong enough or big enough why to keep you growing. When I was a child, my mom continually gave me whys to keep me going. She would say things like, if you eat your vegetables, you can have dessert. She knew I needed to know the benefit of eating vegetables when I didn't want to do it. That kind of training set me up for success because I started to learn the relationship between motivation and discipline. If you think about it, you can see that discipline and motivation are 2 sides of the same coin. If you have the motivation you need, discipline is no problem. If you lack motivation, discipline is always a problem. You have to give yourself more and bigger whys so you can keep wanting to put in the effort to grow. In my book, Put Your Dream to the Test, I teach that the more valid reasons you have to achieve your dream, the higher the odds are that you will. That principle is also true of growth. The greater number of reasons you give yourself to grow, the more likely you will be to follow through. Of course, in certain circumstances, one really compelling why can also be enough, as Kenyan world-class runner Bernard Kiplagat demonstrated when he was interviewed during the Sydney Olympics. He was asked how his country was able to produce so many great distance runners. His answer, it's the road signs, beware the lions. Legendary NFL coach Vince Lombardi said, once you learn to quit, it becomes a habit. End of quote. If giving up has become a habit for you, then I suggest you take the advice of my friend Darren Hardy, who wrote a wonderful book called The Compound Effect. In it, he writes, the compound effect is the principle of reaping huge rewards from a series of small, smart choices. What's most interesting about this process to me is that even though the results are massive, the steps in the moment don't feel significant. Whether you are using the strategy for improving your health, relationships, finances, or anything else for that matter, the changes are so subtle, they are almost imperceptible. These small changes offer little or no immediate results, no big win, no obvious I told you so payoff, so why bother? Most people get tripped up by the simplicity of the compound effect. For instance, they quit after the 8th day of running because they are still overweight. Or they stop practicing the piano after 6 months because they haven't mastered anything other than chopsticks. Or they stop making contributions to their IRA after a few years because they could use the cash. And it doesn't seem to be adding up to much anyway. What they don't realize is that these small, seemingly insignificant steps, completed consistently over time, will create a radical difference. End of quote. When you make the right choices, however small, and do it consistently over time, it can make a huge difference in your life. If you remember why you are making those choices, it becomes easier. Number 4, do you know when you are supposed to improve? The final piece of the puzzle is the question of when. When do you need to improve? First, the obvious answer, right now. Today, author and education professor Leo Buscaglia noted, life lived for tomorrow will always be just a day away from being realized. End of quote. So you need to get started if you haven't yet. More important, you need today to be every day. You will never change your life until you change something you do daily. That means developing great habits. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishments, and that bridge must be crossed every day. Over time, that daily crossing becomes a habit, and ultimately, people do not decide their future, they decide their habits, and their habits decide their future. As author and speaker Brian Tracy says, from the time you get up in the morning to the time you go to sleep at night, your habits largely control the words you say, the things you do, and the ways you react and respond. End of quote. What are you doing daily that needs to change? What needs doing? Maybe more important, what needs undoing? Advice columnist Abigail Van Buren quipped, a bad habit never goes away by itself. It's always an undo it yourself project. End of quote. What are you willing to change doing today in order to change what you will be doing tomorrow? In the end, hard work is really the accumulation of easy things you didn't do when you should have. It's like diet and exercise. Everyone wants to be thin, but no one wants to make the right choices to get there. It's hard work when you've neither eaten right nor exercised day after day. However, if you make small right choices each day, day after day, you see results. Maybe it's time to stop setting goals. Consistency isn't easy. Novelist Aldous Huxley asserted, consistency is contrary to nature, contrary to life. The only completely consistent people are the dead. End of quote. Even so, to be successful, we must learn to become consistent. You must figure out what works for you, but I'll be glad to tell you what has worked for me. Instead of being goal conscious, I focus on being growth conscious. Here's the difference. Goal consciousness focuses on a destination. Growth consciousness focuses on the journey. Goal consciousness motivates you and others. Growth consciousness matures you and others. Goal consciousness is seasonal. Growth consciousness is lifelong. Goal consciousness challenges you. Growth consciousness changes you. Goal consciousness stops when a goal is reached. Growth consciousness keeps you growing beyond the goal. I am such a strong believer in people and in human potential, not only in others but also myself, that I don't ever want to put a lid on it by setting goals that are too small. I did that early in my career and I realized it will limit me. If you can believe in yourself and the potential that is in you, and then focus on growth instead of goals, there is no telling how far you can grow. You just need to consistently put in the work as you keep believing in yourself. Consistently productive. Author Ernest Newman noted, the great composer does not set to work because he's inspired, but becomes inspired because he's working. Beethoven, Wagner, Mozart, and Bach all settled down day after day to the job at hand. They didn't waste time waiting for inspiration. End of quote. That has also been true of one of today's most famous and productive composers, John Williams. No doubt you know the man's work, even if you don't know his name. Do you remember the 5 musical notes that were the communication key in the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Or the ominous music that always accompanied the appearance of the shark in Jaws? How about the theme from Star Wars or Raiders of the Lost Ark or the Harry Potter films? All of those were John Williams' composition. Williams, the son of a jazz musician, was born in Queens, New York, and grew up in Los Angeles. He showed musical promise early and studied with Italian composer Mario Castelnuovo Tedesco. After a stint serving in the US Air Force, he studied piano at Juilliard and then played at clubs and studios in New York City. He broke into the movie industry by working for composers like Franz Waxman, Bernard Herrmann, Alfred Newman, Henry Mancini, and Jerry Goldsmith, playing piano, scoring, and eventually composing. His first screen credit came in 1960. Williams has been working steadily in the movies for more than 60 years. In that time, he has written 121 film scores, a symphony, a dozen concertos, and many other symphonic works. He has been nominated for Academy Awards 45 times, winning 5 times. He's been awarded 4 Golden Globes, 5 Emmys, and 21 Grammys. And he's still going strong. How does he do it? By being consistent. Williams says, I developed from very early on a habit of writing something every day, good or bad. There are good days and there are less good days, but I do a certain amount of pages, it seems to me, before I can feel like the day has been completely served. When I'm working on a film, of course, it's a 6-day-a-week affair. And when I'm not working on films, I always like to devote myself to some piece, some musical project that gives me a feeling that I may be contributing in some small way, or maybe more importantly, learning in the process. Williams doesn't look for motivation. He doesn't wait for inspiration. He gets up every morning and practices the discipline of writing. He doesn't expect it to be perfect. He just expects it to be done. What about writer's block? Williams says it's not a problem. I never experienced anything like a block. For me, if I'm ever blocked or I feel like I don't quite know where to go at the next turn, the best thing for me is to keep writing, to write something. It could be absolute nonsense, but it will project me into the next phase of thinking. And I think if we ourselves as writers get out of the way and let the flow happen and not get uptight about it, so to speak, the muses will carry us along. The wonderful thing about music is it never seems to be exhausted. Every little idea germinates another one. Things are constantly transforming themselves in musical terms, so that the few notes we have, 7, 8, or 12 notes, can be morphed into endless variations and is never quite over. So I think the idea of a block is something we need to walk through. End of quote. John Williams' life and work is proof that the law of consistency can work. Anyone who does what he must only when he's in the mood or when it's convenient isn't going to be successful. The secret is following through. Williams's body of work is the evidence of a lifetime of self-discipline and perseverance, and it verifies what SuccessNet founder Michael Angia says: if you develop the habits of success, you will make success a habit. That habit of success hasn't gone to Williams's head. If the music is well known, he says, it speaks to the ubiquitous nature of film in our society. With time, I suppose everything, all but the greatest works of art, are erased from memory. But I feel lucky and very privileged that people respond in the way they do. End of quote. I find John Williams' music and his life very inspiring. I hope you do too. But never forget, motivation gets you going, but discipline keeps you growing. That is the law of consistency. Applying the law of consistency to your life. Number 1, align your methods of motivation with your personality type. Use whatever personality profile you prefer to study your personality type. If you haven't used one before, then find one. Examples include Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, DISC, and Personality Plus. Once you have a good handle on what makes your personality type tick, then develop a daily growth system that is simple and plays to your strengths. Number 2, it's difficult to remain engaged in anything if you have not found a way to value and appreciate the process. Make a list of everything you like about personal growth. If your list is very short, really work at it. Anything you can find as motivation will help you to develop better growth habits. Number 3, the more whys you have for pursuing personal growth on a daily basis, the more likely you will be to follow through. Start compiling those whys. Think of immediate benefits as well as long-term ones. Consider reasons related to purpose, vision, and dreams. Think of how it will help you relationally, vocationally, and spiritually. Any reason to grow is a good reason as long as it is your reason. Looks like we're getting to the harder stuff, but let's do it. Get your growth journal, start answering the questions, all right? I'll see you at law number 6. Bye.